Alex here from Snake and Exotics, and tomorrow's my birthday. Wow, big 3-0 tomorrow. But what we're doing today is I think we're going to do beginner reptile care for beginners, basically. Because I've noticed a lot of people come to me and what's the easiest lizard to have for a beginner and stuff like that. And I think some things are getting lost in translation. So I'm going to try and base it out very simply today. Because really there's no such thing as a simple reptile. They're all quite complex in their own sort of way, and if you miss one of the couple of things that they need, you can really damage the animal a lot. So we're going to go through it all today for different reptiles, so then you get a good basics of even the easiest animals still need certain things done in a certain way so they don't get damaged and stuff like that in the process. So okay then everybody, so please like, subscribe, comment and share, ring the bell for me, and I shall see you in a bit. One of the main things we'll be talking about today is going to be metabolic bone disease, or MBD. It's one of the most common and most damaging thing to the animal. It's lack of calcium in the bones. So the bones get weaker and weaker and become a really flexible cheese-like, because all the calcium's been taken from them to use for their other body parts to work, their organs to work, and for the brain to send signals to the rest of the body. It all needs calcium. So if you're not adding any extra calcium to it, it's getting used constantly. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about that, and I'll show you some photos about it as well. This is our Yemen Chameleon that came in with metabolic bone disease, or MBD. What happened was he was not given the right lights or the right amount of calcium when he was growing up. So what happens is we give them calcium. If we don't have a UV light, that calcium just gets put back out in the wee. You need the UV light to allow the body to take in the calcium. They work in tandem, they do. So the light allows the body to take in the calcium, so then the body can use the calcium to get strong bones. So just chucking calcium at them doesn't really work unless you've got the calcium with D3. So the D3 is what the UV light puts out, but that is almost like a backup plan. So if the light you've got isn't quite putting out enough, the D3 in your calcium picks up the slack. Because if you look, the animal can get bent bones and stuff like that. So if you look at his front arm, you can see there's a curve to it. So what happened is his arm is either broken or it's bent as it was growing, and then now we've been giving him the right sources of calcium and stuff. The bones have started to harden up. I'll do it again. Started to harden up and stay like they are. So he should not have his arm bent like that. His arm should be straight down with a grabber. But as you can see, it's bent, and then his grabber's over here with his arm. So it's really quite damaged in the like a normal kind of way. He still manages to climb around. But I'll show you some photos of some leopard geckos and some bearded dragons with metabolic bone disease as well. So the most common animals to get metabolic bone disease are bearded dragons and leopard geckos. Bearded dragons are a little bit more prone to it because they grow so much in that first year. So they need 10 times more calcium than a leopard gecko does, because he's only growing. The leopard geckos goes from this to this. A bearded dragon goes from here, a little baby bearded dragon, to here in a year. It's a big difference. So the light and the calcium is very important. So I'm going to put a photo of now of a bearded dragon and leopard gecko with metabolic bone disease. You can see the arms aren't right, the structure of the body isn't right, the spine's usually crooked. It really messes them about, it does. It really does. So it's very important that we keep an eye on our lights, and we make sure that they're taking in the calcium and vitamins and minerals that they need. Also, Reptile Boost is a very good additive as well. It gives all the vital vitamins you could possibly need to give them strong and good bones and a good life. UV lights. UV lights need to be changed every 9 to 12 months. The bulbs give out a certain, it gives out D3 if I remember right. So the D3 runs out after a little bit. So even though the light's on, it stopped producing the thing we need to allow the calcium to be taken in. So every 9 to 12 months, we take them out, buy a brand new bulb and put the brand new bulb in, even if the bulb's still working, okay? So it's not like, oh, the bulb's gone, now I've got to change it. Well, you would normally have to do that anyway. But you get to 9 to 12 months and it's still working, you still got to buy a new bulb, okay? Very important. Don't just assume it's still doing what it's doing just because it's lit up, because it's not. Percentages of UVB are very important as well. So I've got a chart here that shows you all the different animals and stuff like that. And what, oh, we went the wrong way. We went the wrong way. What percentages of stuff they need. This is an older chart. And this is from a year or two ago. I think nowadays they've changed these now to have 1 star. Now, so all these have 1 star, like the snake there. So all them ones that don't have a star now have a star. But you can see bearded dragon, it's got 5 stars, so it needs the highest amount of UVB possible. And then same as the Euromastex. And then coming down, you've got a collared lizard, tortoises, and the next step down. So you're talking 14% for the bearded dragon. You're talking 12% for a tortoise. Then coming down, you're talking 10 to 8%. And then you're going down to like the leopard geckos, which are like 7%, and the snakes are like a 2.5%. So everybody needs some sort of UV to help them process all the calcium and all the stuff that go. And it's nice for them to have a source of light anyway, because they would in the wild. This is calcium. If we look here, it says with D3. It's good to use that just to make sure that the animal is getting the extra bit that it needs. But if you have got a very, very powerful UVB bulb and you keep an eye on your stuff, it's probably not, you don't need this as much if you're keeping an eye on your bulb and stuff. But if you are slacking a little bit on changing your bulbs and stuff, this is a good one to have because it picks up the slack. Reptile Boost, as you can see, it's got vitamin A, C, E, glucose, electrolytes, probiotics, everything your lizard or animal could possibly need in vitamins and mineral wise. Have liquid calcium, great for the bones as a nice supplement if they need it, if you are lacking already, or if you pick up an animal that already is showing signs of having calcium deficiency. Sign that they are having calcium deficiency before they get metabolic bone disease, they lose control of their fingers and arms. They will jiggle because they can't control the signals are getting. They use calcium when the brain sends signals to the different parts of the body. If they don't have any calcium, the brain can't send those signals to the right part of the body. So the muscles just start to spasm and twitch. So if you see a bearded dragon and he's doing this like he's playing a piano, he's lacking in calcium, and his body's sending random signals to his hand and he can't control what he's doing. I know this might be a little bit more boring and stuff than my normal videos, but I think it's very important we get this information out there. I've seen a couple more lately than I need to make sure that everybody knows that when the people, I think what people are thinking are, oh yeah, I'm getting a beginner easy lizard, we just put it in there, chuck food at it and it's done. And it's not, there's a lot more to it than just feeding them. So what we're also going to talk about is heat as well. So I think some people are getting confused about the heat as well, because just one heat source in there, if it's not big enough, isn't enough. So I'll explain that again in a sec. Okay, so heat mats versus heat lights or basking spots and stuff. So there is a couple of different things. So we've had a couple where they've got big tanks like this and you've just got one little tiny mat in there at one end. So I'm explaining a little bit more about it. A mat heats a spot. It does not heat the air in the tank. So if you've got your mat set to 32 and it's in this end here, on top of the mat is going to be 32. The rest of the tank is going to be room temperature. So if the animal's over here, it's room temperature. and all stuff like that. The only time it's going to be actually warm is when it goes on top of the heat mat. But we don't like heat mats in these tanks. Heat mats are for fanariums and the special top lid opening tanks that have the glass insert inside. You never ever 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 want this inside your tank, okay? Never ever ever. It can burn your animal. If the animal moves all the substrate out the way and gets right down to the mat and your probe isn't right next to it, the difference... You stop it, I'm trying to talk. It's going to change the... I forgot what I was saying now. You naughty. So burning your animal is extremely dangerous and extremely important. We don't have it happen. So never ever have a heat mat inside your tank. If you've got a wooden tank like these, you're gonna have to go heat bulb and thermostat. It works so much better because you get a heat gradients. So, for example, over here underneath the heat bulb, we are 32. Then it goes 30, well 31, 30, 29, 28, and that's how it works in the tank. So you get a nice steady decrease from the basking spot. It's not like you got basking spot at 32 and the rest is room temperature like you sort of get with a mat. With a bulb, it spreads the heat across all lovely, so they stay nice and warm wherever they am in the tank. But if they want to be a little bit cooler, they can go to the cooler end and chill in the nice cool air. Because you've got to think they're reptiles. They haven't. If we could have them in the UK, they would have evolved a lot more in the UK. Okay. So same with tortoises. You can't just chuck a tortoise in the garden because we don't have tortoises in the wild in England. If we did, then we'd be able to do it. But it's too cold. That's why we don't have them naturally in the wild. The nature tells us what can live in this country and what cannot. We've just got to follow the guidelines. For example, if I was using a heat mat on one of these plastic fanariums, it would be underneath, like so, and then the heat probe for the thermostat would be sat right there between the two, so it knows exactly what the mat's doing, okay? Because the last thing we want is the mat cooking stuff. And you still want a heat gradients in these little tanks. So you don't want the heat mat the full length of the tank. You want a cool area he can go to if he wants to. So you'd have a certain bit of the tank covered, the rest of it's going to be a cooler area for him to go. But that's in the fanariums and the top opening tanks with the glass panel inside. The glass panel inside, it's a little section in the back where you put the heat mat in, and if you look inside the tank, there's a piece of glass over top the heat mat. Alex, you said we've got to use bulbs in these size tanks, but how do we pick the size of bulb? Well, so we usually, my bulbs, they do a 40, a 60 and a 100. They can go to a 150 as well, but that's usually for bigger tanks like we've got over there. So what we're going to be doing is the smaller tanks, you're looking at a nice 40, or if it's a desert animal, you can go for a 60. What I tend to do, the bigger bulb you go, the less effort it's got to do to heat your tank. So if you've got a 40 watt bulb in there, it's got to be on a reasonable amount of time to heat it up. But if you put a 100 watt bulb in there, which would be extremely overkill, it's literally going to be flash on, and it's going to do what that 40 watt bulb would do in like quarter of the time, because it's got twice as much, or even more than twice as much power. 3 foots, we look at a 60 or a 100 for these ones. Again, it depends on the animal. If you've got a desert animal like a bearded dragon or a leopard gecko that's going to want a nice warm basking spot in this size tank, you go for maybe the 100. Or if you've got like tortoises or stuff like that that don't need it too hot, but they still like it nice and warm, around about the 32, you'd maybe go for the 60, which is just going to tick along nice. 4 foot. You're going to want a 100 watt and a 4 foot. It's because the bulb, it's got a far distance to send any of the heat. So the heat gradients in here is going to be a lot larger because the bulb's got a further to go. It's still not going to be as, it's not going to be a humongous difference because the bulb's got so much more power, it can deal with a lot more distance. So example, 32 here, 31, 30, you're looking at 29, 28, 27 to 26 maybe in the cold end. Probe placement is very important as well. The probe is what senses what your bulb is doing. It controls the basking spot. So some people say to have it further on down the tank. I'm not in for that at all, because we're not controlling what we actually need to control. This has got the possibility of burning your animal if it's not monitored, because it's a heat bulb, you know what I mean? It can get really, really hot. So in my eyes, I believe the heat probe should be right underneath the basking spot. That's in my eyes, I believe that, because the bulb can then be controlled exactly how we want it. We know exactly what that bulb's doing. We know it's not going too hot, because if we wanted it 32 in the middle, so we've got that probe in the middle set to 32. So we're going to try and get this to 32. We don't know what this is going to be. This could be 40. It could be 36, it could be close to 50. So it just depends on how hot it has to be to get the middle to 32. So we're not going to know what this is doing. This could be it could be at a dangerous temperature where it's going to cook the animal. It could be trying to blow the bulb because it's too much power. So I'm trying to make sure that the heat probe is underneath the bulb in the basking spot, so we know exactly how much the hottest part of the tank is. So why originally did we class bearded dragons and leopard geckos as easy beginner pets? The main thing is you just don't spray them for humidity. That's the one thing that sets them apart from other reptiles and stuff like that, that makes it a little bit easier. That's literally it. So, for example, the crocodile skink. He needs a certain amount of humidity all the time. So it needs to be sprayed, there needs to be a water source and stuff like that. So it's a bit more complicated than a bearded dragon, where so it's the same, he still needs UV, he still needs heat and basking spots, still needs feeding, same as a bearded dragon, but then you've got the other layer of he needs humidity checking and stuff like that. That's the only difference between a harder animal and an easier animal is, well, from that beginner one anyway, the desert ones, we keep them nice and dry, so you haven't got to worry about that, you just leave it and class it as it's dry. Okay then, little buddy, it's forever home time. Yes, it is. Oh, you've got a lovely home to go to. Since you've been doing so well, and she's already had one of the tortoises, we're going to let her have you a day early. Yeah, we're going to let her have you a day early. So there you go, sir, off to your forever home. Oh, I think you're going to like it, mate. Okay then, everybody, I think you've had enough of me chatting at you today. So I do look a little bit different, so I'm going out tonight. So we're all snazzy. Oh, looking all snazzy. So we're going to be... So please like, subscribe, comment, share. Ring that bell for me as well. If you want to be a legend like Kiwi, you can press the join button and you can become part of the tribe. What a legend Kiwi is. Oh, what a legend. So if you want to watch another video, there's one there. If you want to subscribe to the channel, it's up there. If you want to watch a playlist, it's up there. If you want to see where I get my animals from or what animals I've got access to order, there's a link in the description below. So I'll see you in the future. Bye.